Hi, happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to our annual grant application webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. My name is Meg Meredith, Grants Manager here at the PEDIGREE Foundation, and I'll also be your host for today's session. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know how to participate as an attendee today. I've taken a screenshot here of what you should see on your computer. You should see something that looks exactly like this on your own screen. You should see my presentation on the left and your control panel on the right. Does everyone see that? Okay, just let me know in the questions section if you have a question. You can also submit chat questions today by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. I've highlighted it in red here so that you can send your questions in at any time during the presentation, and we'll collect them and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Okay, let's get started. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk briefly through a welcome and just a bit more about us as a foundation, and then we'll talk about our grant timing, this year's grant opportunities, any updates or reminders in the guidelines, then how we evaluate the applications. We'll go through that step by step. Then we'll also talk about the site audit process. And then finally, we'll close with Q&A. And just remember, everybody that's registered today will get a copy of this recording, okay, tomorrow. So a bit more about us. You see our mission and vision here. We see a day when all dogs are safe, secure, fed well, cared for, and loved. Now, our staff here at the foundation we're comprised of 3 people: our executive director, Deb Fair, our retail manager, Anna Willoughby, and then myself, grants manager. So we're a small team. We've got big hearts for pets. And then we're also governed by a volunteer board of directors that all have a heart for making the world a better place for pets. Okay, let's get into this year's grant cycle. And so, listen, so different from previous years, we've worked really hard to tighten up the process so that you'll know a decision sooner, or I should say quicker, in the process versus previous years. So note here, we opened up the grant application cycle yesterday, and it will go through April 7th. So your window is open from March 2nd to April 7th. We'll do the review process between April and May, and then site audits in June and July, and then we should have answers for you all by August or September at the latest, but hopefully August, okay? So just to kind of know how we work through our process and what the timing looks like. Now, here are the grant opportunities that are available for this year. One, we've got the dogs rule. That's one grant, $50,000 a year, 100,000 over 2 years. We've got the program development grants, which are our most popular grants, okay? And those are funds that would be used for programs either currently operating in your organization or maybe new programs, okay? And then all year long, we have disaster relief grants. And I just want to bring this up to you guys again. There's a lot of things going on, between disasters and puppy mill seizures and hoarding situations. Just want you to know that that funding is available throughout the year, and you can receive that and also receive a program development grant. So it's not like you would be ineligible for any of our other grants, okay? Okay, looks like we had maybe some technical issues. Can you see my screen now? Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you guys. Okay, so here are the three opportunities again. I'll just kind of leave them up on the screen so you can see them one more time, but we'll go through them in detail, okay? So, and then, you know, as we go through the guidelines for being eligible for our grant, one thing to note, this year we have increased our program development grants up to 10,000 to 15,000. So if you recall from previous years, it was 5 to 15. We want to go ahead and just kind of move that up to 10,000. So it's 10 to 15,000. Anywhere in there is perfectly fine for a program development grant. And then again, like last year, these are our program focuses, and these are exclusive, okay? So the applications that you write for us for the Pedigree Foundation must focus on the transport programs, foster programs, or behavior programs, okay? So those are the three that we're funding this year. And just a quick reminder, we are not funding any medical supplies or veterinary care related expenses this year, okay? So anything that might go along with, for instance, you know, transport when you're getting those pups vetted, we're actually not gonna be able to cover the medical costs, but we will be able to cover the resource or the transport coordinator that will be, you know, working with those transports from one, you know, part of the country to the next. Okay, so let's take a deep dive into the Dogs Rule program. So as I mentioned before, this is a 2-year grant. So you get 50,000 one year and 50,000 the next year. One grant is available. And this is really gonna be a best practice, something that we could share with other shelters and rescues that may not have the resources that you have, okay? And we might be able to really share that and create some awareness around what you're doing in your shelter. So the initiative, again, must be focused on transport and foster or behavior. And then the one important thing, at the end of 2 years, we're asking for the recipient to create a policy manual or a toolkit in order for us to put up on our website and share with those other shelters and rescues. It would be something, you know, in a PDF document that people could look at whenever they had time to do so. Program development grant. I know a lot of you guys are here specifically for these program development grants. Like I said, again, 10,000 to 15,000. Activities supporting transport, foster, and behavior. And then just know there's one caveat here with the program development, and same with the Dogs Rule grant. We will consider capital funding, but only if it's related to those specific programs. And so for transport, I would give you the idea of a van. For behavior, several folks have applied for, you know, funding to do an agility yard for at their shelter. So those are the types of things that we'll fund, but as long as they're directly correlated into the program, okay? Now, application evaluation. And this, I think, is the most part and most important part, and what I would say to you is where I really want you, you know, as I'm going through these, you ask me any questions that you want to. These are in the application kind of in the same way that I'm addressing them today, okay? And what I want to do is just kind of talk through them. This is what our reviewers are looking at. This is what our grant chair is looking at, and also our board members, okay? So as we go through, this is how we are scoring and working through the process of reviewing these grants that come in. Okay, so this first one is program purpose. And what I want you to kind of think about here for this one is it's really the qualitative portion of your narrative. And you're really talking about, you know, why you want to bring that program into the shelter, or why you want to continue that program that you're working on. Be very clear, and please describe the need. You know, what are you trying to do? What's your ultimate, what are you trying to help, and who are you trying to help in the community? Explain how the program will benefit the organization and ultimately increase dog adoptions. Okay, so that's that first piece that qualitative piece where you're focusing on explaining, what your purpose is, what that program purpose is. Okay, this next one, think of this as the quantitative portion, okay, around outlining specific goals and metrics to measure the success of the program. And listen, as we go through these applications, we're looking for really strong programs. That's what the foundation has really, what we really want to do is spread these best practice programs that are really working in shelters and rescues all over the country. And so as you go through these specific goals and metrics, maybe you're saying we want to train more dogs that come into the shelter with reactive behaviors, for example. What I want you to do is think about the goal for your shelter. Would that be, so if I was able to hire, a behaviorist for a couple hours a week, how many dogs, for example, just an estimate, would be coming through the program? How many would you be able to impact? Those are the types of things that we're really looking for in this goals and metrics section, okay? So you'd be, hopefully if you're transporting, you'd be decreasing length of stay. I mean, these are the things that I want you to kind of be thinking of as you think about your internal goals for your shelter or rescue. I want it to come out here, how you're really impacting the dogs within your care. Okay, so that's that specific goals and metrics. Evidence of community partnerships and engagement. And so here you'll see, we're asking as a board to list and explain. We want to see that you're working within your community. Several of you work with other shelters. You work with specific vet, clinics in the area. You partner with businesses for support. Maybe they sponsor you. What other things are you doing to engage your community? Are you offering behavior programs? Are you offering food pantry assistance? These are the types of things we really want to make sure that you are engaging the community and the community is engaged with you. Okay, and so those are the things that we're looking for there. And evidence of board member and volunteer support. When you think about this one, think about your internal support, basically staff, your board, your volunteers that support you, the staff inside the shelter or rescue. But we want to hear about kind of, is the board meeting on a quarterly basis? Are they actively involved in fundraising? Do you have a certain number of volunteers that are walking dogs every day or coming in reading to pets? Whatever that might be, those are the types of things we like to see here to know, there's a lot going on within your organization. And it just shows us that you've got a very active board and volunteer support. Okay, now this next one, sustainability plan for the end of the program. And now what I would say, and I've talked to a ton of you over the last, I've been doing this job for about 6 years now. So I've been talking to you guys a lot and talking about, where we are on a whole from resources. We're just in need of resources, period, from staffing to funding to everything else that you can think of. And so, one of the things that, we've looked at over the years is making sure that these programs can last. And what, we're looking for here, and this one is always one that we're asked a lot of questions about, but as we're really thinking, are you planning for that next year? Are you going to be able to fund this program for the next year? And, what I would say to you is that we don't know what this next year holds, right? But I do know that all of you have donors that are supporting you. You may have fundraising avenues, say you're hosting concerts or golf, you're doing a run. Say you're reaching out to other foundations for support, other grants, anything else that might provide that revenue for you to be able to continue with this program. That's what I want to see here, and what they want to know, is that hopefully, without, hopefully that you be thinking long term for this program is what we're trying to make sure that we're getting through with this question. Okay, so it's just making sure maybe you have a specific social media account set up for fosters, whatever that is, that maybe you're asking for donors for specifically for foster supplies or whatever that is. We just want to see those types of activities happening. And if you would just include those in your application, okay? And then lastly, a detailed program and program budget or project budget, either one. The most important thing here, I don't care how you do it. You can do it in Excel, you can do it in Word. If you're asking for $15,000 or $10,000 or the $100,000, whatever it may be, I want you to clearly describe in this section how you're going to use the $15,000 or the $10,000 that you have. So maybe a portion of that is going to your transport coordinator for her salary, and then the rest of it is going toward, operation costs, whether it's crates or gas, whatever that might be, maybe even marketing tools to get the word out about your fosters, whatever that might be. I want you to make it really clear in here. I also, last year, some of you asked if I had a template for the budget, and I created just a really simple one. So if you would be interested in that, I will send that to you. Just send me an email, and I've got my email at the end of this, okay? If you'd like to see that or even just look at it, that's fine, and I'll send it to you. Just send me an email, okay? But that's very important too. The reviewers will look at that separately from your actual narrative. So just make sure that it's tying back into your narrative. It's very clear, how you're spending that money. Okay, and so what will happen next? You'll go through the review process, then those top scoring or finalists will then receive an on-site audit. And just a little bit about that, if you're a finalist, you'll know more about this as we go through the process, but I just want, these are the things that we're looking for: the 5 freedom principles, freedom from hunger or thirst, discomfort, pain, injury, and disease. These are the things that, you're already doing in your shelters and rescues. And then specifically, we'll come in and look at these 5 particular categories: animal shelter and exterior grounds, animal care areas, veterinary services, if that's applicable. If that's not applicable, no worries. We'll just put not applicable there. Adoption procedures, and then employee practices. So those are really what we focus on. And what I can tell you this is that, the folks that come and do those audits are always just incredibly impressed with what you and your staff are doing there on site for those pets. So it's a good experience, but one that anyone making a finalist position will go through. Okay, let's see. So listen, I just want to kind of recap really quickly. The application deadline, April 7th, 2023. So it's a bit quicker than we've had it in the past. So just make sure you note that. And then I should be reaching out to you via email August, September to let you all know one way or the other. And then we'll look to get funds quicker. I'm hoping even quicker than what we've got here, okay? And now what I'm gonna do is just open it up for questions. And it is just me today, again. So if you'll type them in, I will try to get to as many as I can. We've actually got plenty of time. I kind of ran through that. If you want to go through anything in more detail, this was fairly similar to what we did last year. So I didn't want to take too much of your time, but if you have any questions, let me start going through that. Let me just do that now. Okay, can you submit for all 3 separately is a question, and we get that often. Yes, so if say you have a program that you think is big enough for the dogs rule, and then you could take a portion of that and apply for the program development grant as well. I would do that if you have the capability. We don't encourage multiple applications in the same category, like 5 applications in the program. development category, but if you want to submit one, say you even had a disaster relief or a, hoarding situation that you wanted to address this year as well, that's perfectly fine to do that. Oh, sorry, LOS stands for length of stay. You can use national studies to serve as evidence of need. I think too, adding that local piece, really what's going on in the community just from your perspective as well, just helps, give them context so they understand what's really happening. Let me see if there are any other questions. Can I send the slides as separate in a PDF in addition to the recording? Sure, I can do that. For those of you guys that would like that, I'm happy to send these as well. So are you giving priority to smaller organizations with budgets below a certain level like you did before? What we did those for was the COVID-19 grants. We were really, really worried about some of the shelters and rescues going through the COVID-19 and the resources that we had. So we aren't, what I will tell you, these grants and these grant applications focus specifically on the programs. And the only thing I'm looking at your financial scores to make sure that you're sustainable and you're have been audited or have good financial statements. I feel like what I really want to come across to you guys and say is it doesn't matter how small or how big you are. We are looking, and I train these reviewers to look for the program, the heart of the program. And so the more that you can explain and the more that you can tell us how it's impacting your shelter, those are the types of things that will make the difference from an application perspective. Okay, can an org submit an application for more than one topic? So we're not encouraging we're not going to tell you no, but what I would say is pick the best program that you have and submit that. And I think that's the best chance. Oh, okay. Can you give some examples of what might constitute a successful grant for a foster program? That's actually a great point, and I forgot to mention it earlier. But out on our website, on the shelter tab, for just resources for shelters, there is a spot there that actually has all the grants by year that we've given, and it should give a very short explanation of what the grants covered. So it's a great place to start if you don't have a specific program or you're wanting to apply with a program and you want to kind of see what's been awarded before, and B can give you some some ideas on what we can cover, what you can do with that foster program. So for instance, one that I've seen just recently, was really covering a foster coordinator, pieces of her salary, and then also talking to the marketing behind trying to engage more fosters. And so really focusing on those two things is what they were doing for that particular program. And they had some, I think maybe a few $100s for supplies and things that they would give to their foster family. So is there a limit to the number of grants that you can apply for? We really recommend one grant per category. Yes, we only award one Dogs Rule grant. The big grant is there's only one awarded. And there's usually between 30 to 35 of the program development awards. Yes, and so these grants are available for both shelters and rescues. If you do not have a physical location, a physical shelter, we've had many rescues come through that don't, but we visit the foster families as long as that's okay with you and your foster families. That's how we would do that specific site audit. So we have a site audit tailored for brick and mortar, and we have a site audit tailored for those of you that are, working out of homes or working that don't have a specific area. I'm hoping I'm getting all these. Just seeing. Does disaster relief, hang on, let's see if I can see them. Does disaster relief include preparedness so it lessens the impact of the natural disasters? Great question. We actually ran into this last year. And what we're asking for is for you to actually wait until an event happens, and then we can come in with funding for what you need, so that we can talk to how that money is being spent, and where it's going after the natural disaster. So I totally understand that question, but we are waiting until after it happens. We've also partnered with American Humane this year to really have some people on the ground as these disasters happen. So just know that we're doing what we can to kind of get as much help as we can out there as fast as we can. All right, I'm reading here. When setting up a behavioral program, would the trainer need to be certified, or could they currently be in the process of becoming certified? That's fine. Just provide the paperwork for that and help us understand the timing of that, okay? Okay, we have 40 dogs coming in from a hoarding situation. Do we use a disaster relief and emergency care for puppy mill seizure application? Yes. And so just FYI, there's that application's out on the website. You should be able to submit directly to that. That'll come directly to me, okay? And you've got my personal email here if you have any other questions, okay? But yes, anything where you have a specific event around hoarding, that's definitely eligible, and use that application. Okay, are audits required for any application? So folks, just make sure you go out and look at those guidelines that are on our website. I don't go through them in detail on this in this webinar, just because I want to get to more of these questions. But the only one that requires a third-party audit is the DOGS rule, the big one. The others just require, your 990s and financial statements, 2 years, okay? And those don't have to be third-party audited. It's just the DOGS rule, since it's, $100,000. Okay. How many grants are awarded? So like I said, we've got the one DOGS rule, and then we're somewhere between probably 28 and 36, something like that, with the program development. And then we range probably 20, 25, 26 of disaster reliefs, during the year. We've actually started out, we've got quite a few coming in already this year. So that might be more, but that's kind of an open fund for us so that we can hopefully address as many as we can. Will DOGS rule fund capital as long as it fits the program? Yes, as long as it fits the program. But on questions like that, why don't you go ahead and send me an email and make sure, before you write out this, beautiful application, make sure that we can cover it, okay? Yeah. So this one says, just so I'm clear, grant money for the program development can be used for a salary for a program as long as that position works towards sustainability. Correct. So we will cover staffing costs. That's just, I know a lot of folks don't do that, but we do that. And we think we really value the staff that are in our shelters and rescues. So yes, the answer to that's yes. Okay, you mentioned hoarders for disaster relief. Some of our hoarding situations include medical costs. Okay, also a good question. On your hoarding situations and in your disaster relief situations, emergency care situations, we will cover medical costs. So as you're filling out that application, if you've got the number of dogs and if they're, you know, whatever that situation may be, we will cover medical costs in that case, okay? And that one only goes up to 5,000, your maximum on those, but every bit helps, and you can definitely use it for medical in this case. Does disaster relief category also include dog fighting seizures? Yes. So anything emergency care around. What's the timeline on use for grant funds? Great question. We will typically get that funding to you in the fourth quarter, so the last couple of months. I'm hoping a little bit earlier this year, just because we've tightened everything up so much. But then that will be available for you for the entire following year. Okay, so you've got the year to use it. So here's great questions, and we've got a couple of these. Is a shelter in Mexico eligible for your grant program? So they have to be U.S. based. They have, because of our tax guidelines, everything has to be U.S. based. Same goes for Canada. However, I will tell you, if you are a Canadian organization, we just opened up an arm of our foundation last year there. So reach out to me with more questions. We should be opening that window up in the next little bit. What if you file e-card to the IRS yearly? Being a small organization, how do you show the finances if they're under 50K? What I typically look at is whatever you're using to kind of keep track of your financials. So if it's QuickBooks or whatever that might be, you know, or a balance sheet, whatever that is, with a P&L. And if you've got a specific question or don't know exactly what I'm talking about, just send me an email and I'll try to help you out, okay? It's a great question. Can you cover the cost of the vet examining dogs prior to transport? And the answer is no. And I am going back with a lot of feedback this year around that answer being no. But for this year, for 2023, it is no. That will have to be covered, you know, another way. But I will bring that back up to my board again around, you know, the fact that those vet costs are included in transport. Okay. So no for this year, but hopefully maybe in the future. Is there a deadline for submitting disaster relief grants? Do you need to submit by a certain number of months after disaster? Yeah, I would tell you, you know, two months is probably, we want you to be able to get those funds in and be able to use them quickly. That's why it's not through any big process. It's usually through a small process that gets processed very quickly within a week or two. And that way you have your funding that you need, you know, as quick as possible. But yeah, if for instance, there was a hurricane last year, and you're just now applying for funding, that would probably be something that our grant committee would take a closer look at, probably not approve. Here's the next question. Hi there. We're rural and don't have a budget to employ someone for development, fundraising, volunteers. I plan to step into that role and implement programs in the meantime. Will that count us out? No, you don't have to have a development person or fundraising. You do need to think about how you will sustain this program going forward. Is that through, donor, you're going out on social, and you can also get volunteers to help you do some of these things too. But no, you don't have to have someone in that role, but you do have to talk about how you would fund this program going forward. So it's that sustainability piece that where I would say, hey, focus in on that, being able to answer that well. Is there a minimum number of dogs that make the case a hoarding case? Example, we may have. No, we're really looking for you guys to be responsible and with asking for funding, and if your shelter can hold X number versus a larger shelter, that's fine. Please apply. For a foster behavioral program, would you pay for the gas for the trainer to go to a foster home? Yes. Any of the operational costs around that program, anything that ultimately is helping more pets get adopted. Okay, good question. Hi, Megan. Are municipal shelters eligible for your grant programs? Right now, they are not. So what we typically see here is, I'm gonna use state of Tennessee and Nashville, where I am. Our Metro Animal Care and Control has their Friends of Foundation that supports their municipal shelter. And so that's who we would fund, is the Friends of, or if there's a humane society that you could work with, is what we could fund. So they have to be a 501c3. So municipal shelters aren't eligible, but the way I see people work through that is by having these other 501c3s that support them. If the shelter in Mexico transfers rescue dogs to Canada to their foster-based nonprofit rescue, can that Canadian rescue apply? Shelter in Mexico transfers. Yes, the Canadian rescue could apply for the grants through the Canadian process. Okay, so that Canadian organization couldn't apply through this program here. This is only US based, but they could wait for the Canadian window to open, if that makes sense, and can apply there. Correct. When the Friends of Foundation submits an application for the municipal facility, should they provide financials for the shelter itself? Yes, that's perfect. Okay, I think, and I'm sorry, it's a bit hard to see, but I think I've gotten everybody. At least it's not showing me anymore. So I'm hopeful that this was helpful today, giving you a little time back. So super proud about that. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for what you do out there for our pets. And thank you for the time and energy that you spend. We are extremely grateful for all of you that are in this industry making a difference every day. Okay, and then if you have any more questions or anything more specific, there's my email, reach out to me, okay? And then you'll get a copy of this tomorrow through the registration app. And if you want the budget template, or if you want the actual presentation, just reach out to me and I'll email it to you, okay? Okay, thanks all. Thanks so much. Take care.